Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC 272, in what may be the co-main event of this pay-per-view card. We have Edson Barboza versus Bryce Mitchell, and this video is going to be my full breakdown and prediction for this fight. I'll be doing a bunch of prediction videos for UFC 272, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and make sure you turn on notifications and keep an eye out for those. This fight may or may not be the co-main event of UFC 272, and the reason I say that is because the original co-main event was Rafael dos Anjos versus Rafael Fiziev. Fiziev had to pull out of the fight. The UFC is currently looking for a replacement opponent for Rafael dos Anjos, and I'm assuming if they find a replacement opponent, which there's been plenty of volunteers, that fight will stay the co-main event, but if not, they'll take RDA off the card, and the new co-main event will be Edson Barboza versus Bryce Mitchell. If not, Edson Barboza versus Bryce Mitchell will be the featured fight on the main card. So I'm really excited for this fight. It's a super relevant fight in the featherweight division, and it's a massive step up in competition for Bryce Mitchell. So if you look at the tail of the tape, Edson Barboza is currently ranked number 10 in the UFC official rankings. Bryce Mitchell is ranked number 11. Barboza is 36. Mitchell is 27. Barboza is 5'11". Mitchell is 5'10". Barboza has a 75-inch reach, and Mitchell has a 70-inch reach. So a massive youth advantage for Bryce Mitchell, and Barboza has a 5-inch reach advantage. So if you look at Bryce Mitchell, he's only been in the UFC for 5 fights. Overall, in his MMA career, he's 14-0. He's never lost a fight, but only 5 of those fights have been in the UFC, and he's only ever got one finish. He finished a submission via twister, and I was actually live at that fight. It was the Overeem versus Rosenstrike card, and it was crazy to happen to see a twister live. But again, the level of competition that Bryce Mitchell has faced in his UFC career is not that great. You're looking at Tyler Diamond. I don't even believe he's in the UFC anymore. Bobby Moffett, I don't think he's in the UFC anymore. Matt Sales, I'm not 100% sure. Charles Rosa, I still believe is in the UFC. And then most recently, Andre Fili. If you go back to the Andre Fili fight, it's all the way back in October of 2020. That's the last time Anderson Silva fought in the UFC against Uriah Hall. So he's coming in off a long layoff, over a year out for Bryce Mitchell. And his last fight against Andre Fili, he won. He was able to take him down, control him on the ground, look for submission attempts, but he didn't do much damage. Andre Fili, was controlled for, more than half of the rounds for the most part. But Andre Fili was still scrambling out of positions, reversing positions, and getting back to his feet, and even potentially won the second round on the feet. He landed the harder shots, and Bryce Mitchell really did nothing. I don't remember what the judges' scorecards were, but if I was scoring the fight, I would have scored it at 29-28. Before that, he defeated Charles Rosa. That was back in May of 2020. Same thing. Went in and took him down, controlled him in the ground, and wins a decision. And then the fight before that, he got the twister, which was just amazing. I think that was only like the second ever twister in the UFC, but not a huge sample size for Bryce Mitchell. He's only been in the UFC since back in 2018, so he's only been in the UFC for 4 years and only has 5 fights. So there's not really much to look at as far as his UFC career. Then you go over to Edson Barboza. And it is just crazy how long Edson Barboza has been in the UFC. His first fight in the UFC was all the way back in November of 2010. So he's been fighting pretty much as long as I've been a fan. I started watching MMA in about early 2010, I believe. So pretty much he's been fighting the entire time I've been a fan. And he has just fought who's who. Just a quick notable fight I want to talk about. January 14th, 2012, Terry Edom. I will never forget this knockout as long as I live. If you have not seen it, look up Edson Barboza, Terry Edom. Lands a nasty spinning back heel kick, stiffens Terry Edom up on the feet, and he falls back just completely KO'd. It was so brutal. And he's just fought so many great opponents, whether they be wins or losses. He lost to Donald Cerrone. He fought Bobby Green, has a win over Bobby Green. He has a win over Paul Felder. He has a loss to Tony Ferguson, a win over Anthony Pettis, a win over Gilbert Melendez, a win over Beneil Dariush, a loss to Khabib Nurmagomedov. And that was really Khabib's first big test, if I remember correctly. A lot of people thought Edson Barboza might be the guy to beat Khabib Nurmagomedov. That was back in 2017. He has a loss to Kevin Lee. He has a win over Dan Hooker. Most recently, he has a win over Shane Burgos back in May of last year, as well as a win over Makwan Amirkhani back in October of 2020. But if you look at his most recent record, He only has 2 wins in his last 6 fights, which really doesn't look that good. And if you look back further, he has 3 wins in his last 9 fights. But look at the level of competition he's fighting. Khabib Nurmagomedov retired as the champion. Kevin Lee, sometimes Kevin Lee came out and looked like a world beater. Other times he came out and he looked terrible. Dan Hooker, I mean, he absolutely brutalized Dan Hooker, and Dan Hooker is a quality opponent. Justin Gaethje got KO'd by a split decision loss to Paul Felder, a split decision loss to Dan Ige, and I thought he clearly won the Dan Ige fight. I thought that was a bad decision. And then most recently, his most recent fight was August of last year, where he got TKO'd by Giga Chikadze. He just got hurt, couldn't recover, and eventually got finished. But he actually looked good in that fight while it lasted. He got finished in the 3rd round. And Giga Chikadze is a legit featherweight. I think Giga Chikadze is ranked in like the top 6 of the featherweight right now. I'm not 100% sure. I don't have the rankings in front of me. But not a bad loss to have. And then you have a couple of these split decision losses. And, you know, I think it was after the Paul Felder loss is when he moved down to featherweight. And he's had some success. You know, since he moved down to featherweight, he's 2-1 in the last 3 fights. And Edson Barboza has been a guy that's been on the fringe of title contender for year after year after year. He's so good. He has such great striking, such great kicks. And, you know, I really think this step up in competition for Bryce Mitchell is massive. I mean, Bryce Mitchell, his last fight was against Andre Fili, which is probably the best fighter that Bryce Mitchell's ever fought. There is levels to this, and Edson Barboza is crazy, a crazy step up in competition for Bryce Mitchell. So my official prediction for this fight, I am going to go Edson Barboza by 1st round KO. And I've talked to you guys about before about people who kind of sit on the fence and they don't like say, oh, I'm confident in this prediction because they're scared of looking dumb. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll sit here and talk about why I was wrong. I am very confident in Edson Barboza winning this fight. Bryce Mitchell has never fought the level of competition that Edson Barboza brings. I think Edson Barboza is on a completely different level than Bryce Mitchell. And I know Bryce Mitchell's looked good, but if Bryce Mitchell wins, it's going to have to be coming out and taking Edson Barboza down and holding him down for all 3 rounds. Edson Barboza has good takedown defense. Edson Barboza is super strong. Edson Barboza has nasty techniques coming back at you at all times. Flying knees, step-in knees, nasty leg kicks. Bryce Mitchell is rushing forward. His entries are kind of sloppy. You know, he's constantly spamming the takedown. And I know that the blueprint to beat Edson Barboza is to put the pressure on him. And I know Bryce Mitchell will put the pressure on him. But you don't think Edson Barboza has kind of learned from that? And if he's not a world-class fighter putting the pressure on him like Khabib Nurmagomedov, he is going to pick you apart. I think he is going to chop the legs of Bryce Mitchell. I think he is going to light Bryce Mitchell up with body kicks. And I think he's going to finish him early. I think Bryce Mitchell is super sloppy, looking for the entries. If Bryce Mitchell does win, it's going to consist of him taking Barboza down and holding him down for 3 rounds. I don't see him submitting Edson Barboza. I just really don't see how Bryce Mitchell can win this fight. And it's crazy because Bryce Mitchell, a lot of people are picking Bryce Mitchell, and I just don't see it at all. Barboza has good takedown defense. And even a guy like Andre Fili, who I can see that for the majority of the fight he was taken down and controlled, but he was able to get reversals. He was able to get sweeps. He was able to get back to his feet on multiple occasions. I think even if Barboza gets taken down, I think he will find his way back to his feet. But Barboza has good takedown defense. He will put his back against the cage. He will defend the takedowns, and then he will go back to systematically picking Bryce Mitchell apart. I am going to say that Barboza not only spectacularly KOs him in the 1st round, I think he's going to KO him with a flying knee. As Bryce Mitchell moves in, I think he's going to get caught. Andre Fili actually caught him with a flying knee, and Barboza just has some of the nastiest leg techniques, leg strikes in the sport. I mean, whether it be head kicks, body kicks, spinning back heel kicks, flying knees, Edson Barboza is nasty with his legs, and he has the most power in his legs. And Edson Barboza has gotten better. Bryce Mitchell coming into this fight on over a year layoff against a guy, you know, the level of Barboza, I really do not think he has a chance. Maybe, just maybe, you know, another potential path to victory for Bryce Mitchell would be if Bryce Mitchell can rock Edson Barboza and then in a scramble catch like a rear naked choke or a guillotine, similar to what Cowboy Cerrone did to Edson Barboza years ago, where he hit him with a jab and dropped him and then jumped on the rear naked choke. But I don't see that happening. I think Barboza can stop him. I think Barboza can win by decision. And I just do not see Bryce Mitchell being able to take him down and hold him down for all 3 rounds. Best case scenario, maybe Barboza starts to fade in the 3rd round and Bryce Mitchell is able to control him there. I just don't see it happening. I see Barboza as bigger, stronger, better striker. I think he's good enough grappling to be able to stuff the takedowns, and I just don't see where Bryce Mitchell can win this fight. I know Bryce Mitchell, has relentless pressure. I know Barboza doesn't fight his best moving backwards, but he's grown accustomed to that and he's gotten better over the years, and he's fought legit competition where Bryce Mitchell, this is a massive step up for him. I could not believe when they announced this fight, and then I realized, well, Bryce Mitchell's ranked number 11 and Barboza's ranked number 10, so I could not believe they were even matching these two up. But I guess because Barboza has lost so many fights in recent history, losing 4 out of his last 6, I guess they said, okay, let's see if we can build Bryce Mitchell's name off of Barboza, feed the old to the young. But I just don't think this is going to work out well for Bryce Mitchell. And again, I said Barboza could maybe fade in the 3rd round. Barboza has gone a hard 5 rounds before, so I don't see him fading. I don't think Bryce Mitchell has the striking, by any means to outstrike Edson Barboza. Maybe if Barboza's so worried about the takedowns that he gets clipped, but I don't even see that happening. I think Barboza has more than a serviceable takedown defense. I think he can get his back off the cage. I think he's bigger than Bryce Mitchell. He's a former lightweight, and he was able to compete. He was even able to stuff some takedowns off of Khabib early, at least make Khabib work for the takedowns. Let me put it that way. And, Bryce Mitchell, I know he's had this long time off. He's going to come in fresh. Maybe he's gotten a lot better over the last year or so. But I just really do not see how he gets it done against Edson Barboza. He's not going to be able to take him down and hold him down for 3 rounds. Edson Barboza, I am very confident, brutally KOs him in the 1st round. And if not, we will talk about it on the post-fight show. I'll be going live for the post-fight after UFC 272. But let me know in the comments, are you picking Bryce Mitchell? Because I've seen a lot of people who were confident in Bryce Mitchell, and I just don't see it. I still see Edson Barboza as one of the elite featherweights right now, even though he's ranked at number 10. I think he can beat a lot of guys in that top 10 at featherweight. And Bryce Mitchell, for me, is still relatively unproven. And look at the experience difference, too. You have Barboza, who has 26 fights in the UFC. He's been fighting in the UFC for 12 years. Meanwhile, you have Bryce Mitchell, who has 5 UFC fights. So I think Bryce Mitchell gets his first loss in MMA at UFC 272. Make sure to like the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.